Introducing the game changer and the one and only Dr. Alfreda all the way from Bellmead, Texas. Dr. Alfreda Love. Enjoy the second series of Save Our Youth. Let's go.
All right. Welcome to our second series of the Love Talk Show. And on today, we are talking about emotional healing. Someone say emotional healing. There was a song by the famous Miss Mariah Carey, and she said, "Love takes time to heal when you're hurting so much. And there are processes and instances in our lives that causes us to say the famous phrase of I'm moving on." Somebody say that. I'm moving on. That particular phrase is nothing that is out of the ordinary. As a matter of fact, we have all said that or felt that way at least once in our lifetime. If there's anyone who has not felt that way, you must be a baby. Even a baby moves on. They're not able to play with certain toys or put a toy together. They move on. A child who has lost something, they move on. A teenager who have lost a cell phone, they move on because they go get a new one, or their parents buy a new one. Adults, they move on when you didn't make that grade that you was looking for, but you know that life must go on. And even if you're in your middle ages, and you may have made a mistake, you still move on. But what about those instances in life where we say, I'm moving on, but our emotions, somebody say emotions, our emotions get the best of us. And our bodies move on, but our emotions remain in that situation. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to briefly discuss emotional healing. Because when we're speaking about saving our youth, we're speaking about also saving their parents. Because anytime something happens with our youth, it causes our emotions to pay a heavy price. Let's talk about the three different types of I'm moving on that we may experience. The first experience of I'm moving on may be in a relationship. It could be a marriage, it could be a friendship, it could be a business partnership, and someone says I'm moving on. In a relationship, someone says I'm moving on. And we have many ways of expressing the fact that I'm moving on. And we're going to talk about that. Some people show that they're moving on by just ignoring a person. That's unhealthy because your emotions are still running high. Some people say I'm moving on through divorce or through disassociating yourself with others. That's a I'm moving on. Some people say I'm moving on because they cannot come to a reconciliation with the other person, so they begin to move on to something more. Then the second type is a business relationship. I'm moving on. That means that I'm going to try to advance myself. Or it could mean a relationship as far as business is concerned, as we're going to depart as partners in business because for whatever reason our philosophies are different. They say I'm moving on. Or it could be because I'm not doing as well as I thought I would in business, I'm going to move on to something that is more mainstream where I can learn how to be successful. And then finally, we have the I'm moving on with the self part of life. Myself. I have an inner struggle within myself, and I still have things from the past, whether it's a divorce, whether it's your children acting up, whether it's finances, whatever it is, you have an inner struggle, and you've come to the conclusion that I am moving on. And ladies and gentlemen, it is very healthy to say that I'm moving on. It's very healthy to find other avenues to get to where you need to go. But there is just one thing that we should know. And that one thing is that when you say I'm moving on, you have to give your emotions time to heal. Somebody say you have to give your emotions time to heal. What happens is that just as when a baby is born, that mother should stay in 6 weeks, sometimes longer. But she's so happy to show off her newborn baby that she gets out before the 6 weeks, and she may have a relapse. She could be exposed to infection. When you have surgery of any kind and you're supposed to stay in and you go out, you may begin to experience pain inside of your body. You have to give your body time to heal. And that's what I'm telling you today. Your emotions must have time to heal, because if you move or transition too quickly or swiftly, you're going to end up getting hurt again. And so what am I saying? I'm saying in the process of emotional healing, there are some steps we must take and we must recognize and acknowledge before we say, I'm moving on. And in this process of you packing up your life, you must understand that your emotions are still going to remain. And you are going to have to gradually pour your emotions together with you. So the first thing about emotional healing that we must understand, and in a relationship, a business partnership, or within yourself, is that you as a person must acknowledge that you have emotions. Somebody gets a divorce, and someone says, I'm not even bothered by that. The flame or the fire was gone a long time ago. 2 snaps, a circle, a dot, 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 and a smiley face. I am now happy. And the truth of the matter is that you masquerade in front of people, but inside you're still hurting because you have not had time to heal. Love, once again, takes time to heal when you're hurting so much. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how tough you are, how many years you've been in the military, how many years you've been out of the military, how strong of a lady you are, how strong of a man you are, how strong of a child you are. It takes time to heal. Love takes time to heal. So you must acknowledge, I have emotions. I've been with this person for several years, and now we're breaking apart. And yes, I have some emotional healing to do. Or I've had this dog for so long. This dog has passed away. There is some emotional healing that must take place. I've had this job for 35 years. And there is some emotional healing that must take place as I say I'm moving on. Acknowledgement, ladies and gentlemen, is the first step in emotional healing. Acknowledging that yes, I'm human. Yes, I have emotions. And yes, it's going to take time to heal. The second component of emotional healing is you must prioritize. And I'm not talking about any type of task or what you need to get done. Your emotions must become a priority in your moving on process. You can't sweep your emotions under the rug and say, I have a new thing now. Whatever that new thing is, it could be a person, it could be a car, it could be a house, it could be a new life. I have a new thing now. Forget those things behind me because you are forgetting your emotions that are attached to the thing behind you. I said it's a gradual process. So within this gradual process, after you acknowledge, you must prioritize. At some point in your life, you must get by yourself, you and whoever you believe in, and you must feed your emotions. Feeding your emotions means that first of all, you trust in whoever you trust in. Second of all, is that you feed your emotions through positive things. Whatever things or people are toxic within your life, you must prioritize. Do I want my emotions to be fed and for me to become a whole person, or do I want to continue to listen to these toxic people, put my emotions in the back burner, pretend like they don't exist, and then have several monsters hunting me down at night in my mind? That's going to cause depression. It's going to cause suicidal thoughts. It's going to cause anger, malice, and jealousy. You must acknowledge and prioritize. Each day of your life, if you have experienced something, which we all have, we must take out time with our emotions. How does this look? This looks like you sitting down in the presence of whoever you believe in, my God, and you begin to read scripture, and you begin to say, Lord, this is the part of my life that is broken. My emotions are out of whack. My life is a living time bomb. And Lord, I need you to bring my emotions up to where I'm at. Prioritizing. This must be daily, ladies and gentlemen, especially when you've experienced a separation or divorce, especially when you've experienced something you've lost. You said, I'm moving on. Whether it's favorable or not, you're still going to leave some emotions behind because there were some relationships that you made. There were some attachments that happened, even if it's a pet. So you must prioritize. So what do we have? Acknowledge, prioritize, and then after you acknowledge and prioritize, you must begin to exercise your emotional stability. What does that mean? You said you was going to move on. You said you was pressing forward. Why are you listening to toxic people still? Why do you get on the phone and still talk about this man or woman that you have left? Or why do you still get on the phone and talk about how sad and depressed you are? You said you were moving on. Why is there still bickering in the relationship? Why? Since you said you're going to move on, then you must put this into practice. Any athlete, any person who is in a sport does not dwell on the pain or when they was hurt 2 or 3 years ago. They press. They continue to train as if they never had an injury. And so after you have acknowledged and prioritized, you must begin to practice each and every day. Because guess what is going to happen? You're going to have another storm. And instead of sweeping it under the rug and having 2 or 3 monsters under the rug that can come up at any time, you know how to face and address your emotions when things of this nature happen. You have to practice. You have to practice facing those things that causes our emotions to become disfigured. In order to get them back into a reasonable figure, you must exercise your emotions. Putting them under the rug, pretending like they don't exist is not going to help. For instance, if you need to get in shape, sitting down talking about it and putting on big clothes to cover up things is not addressing the issue of I need to get in shape. You exercise in order to get in shape. You eat right in order to get in shape. So in order for your emotional well-being to come back into a reasonable figure, you must exercise that thing. That means you must practice every day. And that's what we talked about, practicing emotional healing every day. You're going to have or continue to have those monsters. You're going to continue to have bickering in relationships, business partnerships, if you don't learn to let go and move forward, but to make sure that you are addressing your emotions as you're moving. Your emotions must have therapy. It doesn't mean that you have to go to a therapist. You are the therapist because those are your emotions. I can't tell you how you feel just by looking at you. You can smile and be hurting inside. Amen. Unless the Lord tells us. But with your emotional healing, as I said before, there are 3 things you have to remember. Acknowledge. Everyone has emotions. It doesn't matter how tough or strong you are. It doesn't matter how famous, rich, or poor you are. You have emotions. You feel bad about disconnections. Number 2, you must prioritize. You must take time with yourself in order to address your emotional needs. You know what your emotions need better than anyone else. You go into your secret place and you begin to feed and nourish your emotions because you're going to have to make them stronger to get ready to what? Number 3, practice emotional healing. See, runners and athletes just don't get out there and run. It's a process. They must acknowledge that I have to run a 200-meter dash. They must prioritize. What do I need to do to practice? Well, I probably need to run a couple of 400s. I probably need to run a couple of 800s. And they get out there and they practice. It doesn't matter how cold it is, how hot it is. You get out there and practice. And then you get it and you put it into place. Emotional healing, ladies and gentlemen, is very important. When we speak about saving our youth, when we speak about emotional healing for adults alike and all these other people, the only thing that we're saying is that things happen, such as anger, when people get killed, shooting up people, hurting people because we have not addressed our emotional well-being. As simple as it sounds, we don't do it on a daily basis. If you have anger problems, then you need to sit down and you need to feed or give attention to your emotions. Because you know better than a doctor, better than anyone else, what sets you off. You also understand and recognize what you need at that particular time. Suicidal thoughts. Once again, emotional healing because of the past and things have piled up. Things are too much for you now and you're covered. You're drowning in emotional fear. And because you're drowning, you want a way out. You can't breathe. You want a way out. And so the only way that you see out is that you take your own life. Separation from a relationship, whatever relationship it is. There is an emotional attachment. You still love that man. You still love that woman. You still love your child, although you had to put your child in a home. You still love them. There has to be times in which you allow your body to heal. Just like those with surgery, those who have had children, you have to give your body emotional time. Whatever transition you make in this life, whatever transition it is, you have to bring your emotions along. But guess what? Your emotions are not going to come willingly. You must acknowledge, prioritize, and exercise those emotions. And then you'll finally catch up to your phrase of I'm moving on. And don't get me wrong, it's good to move on. It's excellent to move on. And these particular processes and procedures affect people in different ways. Some people, it may take a week for them to get over or to bring their emotions with them. Some people, it may take a month. Some, it may take 6 months. Some, it may take a year. Some, it may take years. But you must understand that each and every day of your life, you must be in control of your emotions. And the way that you, in other words, exercise your emotions is that you acknowledge, you prioritize, and you actually work your emotions through healing and through that process. I would like to thank each and every one of you for listening to Love Talk Television. And I encourage you to come back each week as we talk about things that will help us along the way, as we talk about holding it all together because many times it is hard to hold things together when so much is happening. So understand this: with emotional healing, you must acknowledge, you must prioritize, and you must exercise the healing process. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for reaching out and for listening to the Love Talk Show. Be sure to join me on tonight on blogtalkradio.com/freedalove. That's blogtalkradio.com/FREDALOVE. I would love, love, love to have you on the ministry. Also, make sure you tune in next week on Love Talk Television with none other than Dr. Alfreda Love. Thank you so much for tuning in. Goodbye, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the Love Talk Show with Dr. Love. Be sure to tune in with us the next time as we save our youth with Dr. Alfreda.